UNFPA, the Population Fund of the UN, which basically is another word for abortion. They want to control population. That's what it means.
Say that once again.
UNFPA, which President Trump in his first term actually completely defunded, because they get like $60 million something a year from the U.S.
To do what?
To promote population control. Now, if you look at their website, that's not what it's going to say, but that's what they do. And so they come in with, so basically, let's say there's a conference. Let's take CSW. They'll have a document that'll say something to the effect of, we need to make sure that women and girls have equal opportunity. For what? Equal opportunity. And again, sometimes it's often broad. The delegates will all come together, and then they'll start voicing their opinions. They'll talk on the side. They'll come, they come in this general assembly room, and they have different people make statements on their position, and they'll get instructions from their capitals on how they want them to respond. The delegates and the ambassadors are just arms of their capital. They're supposed to copy what the capital tells them to say. So it should come from legislation in their home country. But if they're voting as a bloc, it gets a little more complicated. So in that process of all that negotiation, there's a lot of stuff that happens on the side. So you'll have like a lot of NGOs are at the UN. We're an NGO. A lot of NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are at the UN, and they're all putting their influence, trying to put influence on the delegates and on the ambassadors to vote in their favor. Depending on the NGO, like International Planned Parenthood Federation has a massive influence at the UN. They do presentations with delegates all the time. There was a few years ago, I think it was 2018, I was meeting with a delegate, and I was told, she was new, and she said, at the time that thing was going on with David Dilaudid with the Planned Parenthood videos, where he was exposing that they were selling fetal baby parts. And I was talking about that with her, and she didn't know what I was talking about. And I said, well, don't believe me. Go look online. There's videos and evidence about this. She said, well, that's very interesting, because I'm about to meet with Planned Parenthood next. And so they meet with the delegates just like we do. They're trying to get their agenda pushed through into these documents. So when this document achieves consensus, what they fight over are pieces of language at this point, because the documents are already in place. So like if you've heard of Declaration on the Rights of the Child, that's a big one that a lot of people have heard of. Convention Against Violence Against Women. There's another one about CEDAW, like convention, I forgot what it's called, but if you look up CEDAW, there's a whole convention on that. There's different agreements that they've done in the past. So they'll come to these conferences and try to renegotiate bits and pieces of these language and these agreements. And it's a lot of intense, often bickering of, we want this, we want this, we want this, we want this. And their hope is to come out with some kind of document that everybody agreed to. And then people always often ask me, how does UN policy affect me in my country? So let's say I'm in the United States. It doesn't affect my life. People will tell me that. I said, well, actually it does. So in this country in general, but in California particularly, in 2016, they legalized comprehensive sexuality education in schools. They did it very quietly. I didn't even find out about it till 2018. So that's how, and I had my finger on the pulse of something no one knew. My children's own school district in Southern California had already adopted. They signed right away, came down from the state, oh, you got to do this. The interesting thing about that whole thing is when I heard that, we've been fighting CSE at the UN already for a while, a long time. So all those ideas came from there. So if you think it doesn't affect your life, it absolutely does. The whole term globalism that people talk about today, that's UN. They want the world to be one government, one way of doing things. It's communism, right? Everybody's the same. You can't have your own traditions or culture. You have to do things one way, and one way is right. That's where DEI comes from. That's where social emotional learning or mindfulness comes from. All of this is you have to think. There's a certain approved, it's a group think, right? There's a certain way that's approved that you should think. And if you think the correct way, then you're okay. And if you don't, then we're going to fight you.
This video is about to be suppressed like never before. Why? Because we're about to expose United Nations corruption and perversion. That's why I need you to do these 3 little things. Number 1, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done that already. Number 2, please leave a comment below and like this video right now. And number 3, just share this video with all your friends, peers, and loved ones.